What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Road to Optimal Self podcast, where you can go from zero to hero. I'm Jay. What's up, Tyler?
How's it going, man? Good to be here.
You're going to have to talk a little bit more into the mic and a little louder. There,
okay.
Dude. Anyway, I'm here with my buddy Tyler Young. When we meet? What year was that? 15?
Yeah, 14 to 15, somewhere in there.
So I met Tyler. I was getting ready to open my gym, and I don't remember how the fuck did you even hear about it? Because you just dropped into
dude. I moved back from DC, and a buddy of mine posted on Facebook come check out this new CrossFit style gym or something, and I was like, all right. So I found out who the owner was, you and Debbie, and dropped you a message on Facebook. I was like, hey, man, I want to coach your gym for free.
Yeah, you did. And you literally said that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I just got my L1, and you were like, yeah, dude, come on by. We'll work out. And then, went down the box, and it was there.
Yeah, and what's funny is my interview style is very different than most people. Because you just walked in, and I'm like, all right, what workout are we doing? And your face was like, what the fuck you mean? I thought this was an interview. I'm like, yeah, I want to see what kind of workout you came up with. And I do remember it was hang power cleans,
box jumps,
burpees,
maybe.
I think it was burpee box jump over.
Was it burpee? Actually. Yeah, something like that. It was me, you, Debbie, and Dominique Laparo.
Yeah, and Debbie, 3 minutes in, ate shit on a box jump.
She did, yeah. Scuffed her shit all up. I've been there. I've done it, so.
Yeah. So, but then we've been fucking boys ever since.
Yeah.
But what's interesting was, I didn't know this right off the rip with you, but we both went to Cleveland State University.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And I got out of Cleveland State 2003. And when did you go into Cleveland State?
So my freshman year would have been 07 to 08 season. So yeah, and I left 2011. So
did you wrestle all 4 years?
I wrestled 3 years, and then then I left going into the winter, or what would it be, the spring semester of my redshirt junior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's back up, because this is about the road to the optimal self. So I know we've had this conversation off camera before, but you raced dirt bikes early on, and then you transitioned to wrestling. What got you into dirt bikes, and at what age did you start having, when did you start competing?
In motocross?
Yeah, in motocross.
Yeah, so my mom and dad had we had this little dirt bike, little PW50 or something like that. My uncle and my dad went in on, we had cousins, so there was 15 of us boys, maybe a little less, 10 boys in the Youngside family, and my dad and uncles made this little wood ramp in my grandma's yard, and we just were sending it off this little jump, taking turns. So yeah, we had gotten bikes ever since then. So we were probably I would say 6 or 7, man, and kind of just raced, me and my brother just went around. We raced. My cousins raced. There were girls, Corleen and Kayla. Yeah, we raced with them. And home track was in Tiffin, Ohio, Sandusky Valley Riders, and we went out there and trained all the time.
And I'm not as familiar with motocross. Is Supercross the racing, or what? What did you actually do, and what's that different from what?
So Supercross is indoor dirt bikes or 4-wheelers, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then motocross is considered an outdoor race.
Okay.
But yeah, so you have a couple indoor courses around here, which aren't super popular, I guess, around for this area just because it's smaller communities. But yeah, so motocross it used to be really big when I was a kid. I don't know too much about it anymore.
I'm not as... And there's different classes and stuff, right? And did you do is all motocross have the obstacles and jumps and shit in it, or is there ever just fucking go?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different types. You have hair scrambles, which is basically just a bunch of guys riding through fields, and the first one to get there at the ending wins. It just no matter. Some of the races are hours long.
No shit.
Oh yeah, they're a couple hours. They're called hair scrambles, and they just make makeshift paths through woods, and you just ride however you can through water and trees and through creeks and stuff like that. And then you have your motocross, which is design tracks, layouts where you're racing other guys.
Hairpin turn.
Yeah.
All that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you did that for how many years?
I rode more than I raced, honestly. But I would say I probably did it for a good probably 6 years, man, 6 7 years, and we did that for we went out to the racetrack like all weekend. We'd be there from like Friday night till Sunday afternoon, riding dirt bikes and stuff. So it's a good time.
Crazy, crazy. So what made you transition out of that? Because I know when we've talked offline before about this, but you had a chance to go pro, or
I had a chance to get,
or I don't know what the technical terms.
I had a chance to race a lot more than what I was doing, but yeah, I mean, coming from a small town, small community, yeah, we had school sports, and is either you do, my mom and dad currently race or do school sports, and at the time, school sports was more of a thing for me as far as baseball and football and wrestling and stuff like that. So, we kind of got rid of all the motocross stuff and we just start to school sports.
Before we dive down that aspect of your life, do you still ride at all? Like, did it just one day you just got rid of the shit and it's not a part of your life anymore? Or
I mean, yeah, man. It's kind of like that's kind of how it was. It's kind of like just ending a chapter full on out and then just starting a new one. I mean, we had always done sports while we were riding and stuff, but
yeah, so it was never that wasn't just your life.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the only thing we had done. It was just kind of one of those things where like dad gave us the call and was like, "Hey, what do you guys want to do?" And we kind of just like ended it right there, and then high school started, and that's all we did was, sports. Me and my brother, we've just played every sport there was.
Did you miss it at all?
Riding?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a bike back when I was like 20, probably 23 or 24. I bought a dirt bike, and me and buddies would ride through fields and woods and stuff like that. But it's just not the same getting back on the track. And I guess the older you get, having responsibilities and bills and a life, you can't really just. Oh yeah, my uncle still races. My uncle's like 55, man, 56, and he still races all the time, and he's got a family, full-time job, and he still rides a lot.
But if you never stopped, you never let that fear go in. It was like I was telling my wife the one day. I used to skateboard. I used to roller. Like I used to.
Yeah.
I grew up in like the extreme sports world. So
that's how it was, man.
When
I
think of
kids.
motocross, I think of Travis Pastrana, right? Like even though he never raced, like doing tricks on a dirt bike. But anyway, it's like I went back early on in me and Debbie's relationship, which is 12 years ago. I'm not super old, but 12 years ago, I'm still 25. Having taken 6-7 years off of skateboarding and taking hard falls and all that other stuff, the first time you're going up to a trick and you're like, I never used to have fear about falling or any of that other shit. Now I'm 25, 26, 27. Fuck, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, it definitely changes, man. Like
it kind of just play, and you can't have fear to be good at that shit.
Yeah, no, like, correct.
You cannot have fear.
My dad and my uncle were very adamant on like if you crash, like you got to get right back on the bike and go and do it again, because if you let that fear overtake your mind, it's kind of like with anything in life. If you don't do it because you're scared of it, you're not going to do it.
100%.
So I mean. Yeah, but back when we were kids, man, the X Games was huge.
Yeah, you didn't give a fuck about getting hurt.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's just, just even extreme sports back then were a very big community back then. Like, the X Games was huge.
Yeah.
I remember, Travis Pastrana hitting a double backflip, and, like, that was, like,
that was the
craziest thing in the world. And now there's people doing, like, front flips and triple backflips and quadruple backflips on dirt bikes, and you're just like...
You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's just nuts. It's a different world anymore.
So... You haven't rode. Your dad gave you an option to go into school sports. What was your favorite sport? You said baseball, football, and wrestling?
Yeah. Wrestling was my favorite sport. I mean, we've known each other long enough. That's why I went to college for.
I know that's what you went to. You went D1 college. We'll get into your accolades and all. But my question wasn't what were you best at? Like, was that what were you best at that because you enjoyed it the most? Because I never gave a fuck about swimming. I was just good at it.
Yeah.
Like I actually, believe it or not, I gave up basketball, which was probably my favorite sport to play.
Yeah.
To swim because I had a better future, quote unquote, swimming.
Yeah.
So that's more my question is, was wrestling really your passion at that? Because you started wrestling pretty late.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, wrestling was my passion, man. I fell in love with it. It's just like, what the funny thing is, like, I was never good at any sports, really. Like, I was an average athlete for my school, and, I went to school with, we had, like, 70 kids in the class. Like, I went to a small school compared to, like, your Division 1, 2, 3 schools like that.
Yeah.
I went to a small rural school, and,
Sorry about the dogs, guys.
Yeah. But, I went to a small school with, you knew everyone from K to 12.
Yeah.
Like, you legit, like, you knew, like, oh, hey, so-and-so's, this is their field, and so-and-so owns over here, and, you knew the whole half the county almost, because our school district was so big. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, I played football, baseball, and I wrestled, and football is kind of one of those things, like, everyone played football in my school, so, like, if you were even somewhat of an athlete, and there were athletes that didn't play football, obviously, but, a lot of them played football, and it's just kind of like the boys of fall kind of thing where, it's just kind of one of those, like, memories that you're going to have forever. And the same thing with baseball. If you were somewhat of an athlete, like you were doing baseball or track, like everyone really dove into sports.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So,
I have a very funny story about why I never wrestled and why I never played football.
Yeah.
So you'll appreciate this. You've known me after I had a falling out with my parents. So you've really never known my parents. But my mom was that vocal, on the sidelines screaming mom.
Yeah.
Like just fucking crazy. And you're going, Mom, please stop. Stop. You embarrass me. Well, anyway, the year I played football, I think it was my 7th grade year. It was all inner team, right? We had a gold team, purple white team, and a blue team, right? Well, we had at the big, we got to play at the Ross High School halftime show or whatever the hell it was, and I was the strong safety. Fucking guy comes breaking out, running back, wide receiver, I don't remember what it was, but we like lower our shoulders and we fucking connect, and the entire pile comes down on me.
Yeah.
My mom's screaming at the top of her lungs, "Get off my baby!" And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. This bitch is just, she made me feel like a pussy.
Yeah.
And I'm on the bottom of the pile going, I made the tackle, and all anybody's talking about is my mom screaming, "Get off my fucking baby." So I was going, I got asked to wrestle that year, and I'm like, if my mom's that big of a psycho from a fucking tackle.
Yeah.
Imagine the first time I get double leg, single leg. Which is funny now because, as you're well aware, I am a student of wrestling now.
Yeah.
I wish I had just fucking did it back then because I feel like I would be really good at it. But that's why I never got into, I did all non-contact sports.
Hey, man, you're still a master of your craft, though, swimming and all that stuff. So, I mean, it all worked out.
It works out. It's just hearing you say, we were all into football. If you're an athlete, I was a great fucking athlete.
Yeah.
But I was that kid that the coach was always like, "Man, come out for the team." I'm like, "You don't understand. My mom's fucking crazy. Like, it ain't happening."
My mom's gonna know you more than she does anybody else.
Like,
so,
you're gonna bench me just so you don't have to hear my mom.
Exactly.
So it's kind of funny thinking about that. So you did like wrestling the most, but you played these other sports. When did the focus of wrestling, like, when did you know you were going to be good at wrestling? Like, right out of the bat, were you like, oh my, you put on a singlet, you fucking take everybody down, you start dominating?
No, man. Actually, yeah. So, like, my freshman year, I'm pretty sure I went, like, too bad we're on this podcast right now. I'll have to come out the open, but, like, I'm pretty sure I went, like, 0-21 in JV. Oh, nice. Like, I didn't win one match. I was this short, little, fat, pudgy kid, which I'm still pudgy now. But, like, I was probably, like, 5 foot tall and weighed, like, 140 pounds, 150 pounds. And I was just a little butterball, man, and like, but like, yeah. So I told my dad. I remember going home at the end of freshman year, and I was like, I think after like award ceremonies, and I was like, I want to get good at wrestling, Dad. And he's like, my mom and dad were like, all right, how? What do you got to do? And
let's unpack that for a minute, because that's something you're saying here is very impactful. Because I remember reading, I don't remember if it was Kobe Bryant. I think it was Kobe Bryant, but if it wasn't, don't crucify me, podcast people. But the year he lost a championship game, he was telling his teammates, sit in there and soak in the loss.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to, that's going to be your driving force. MJ's talked about it. All the major athletes have talked about, they remember their losses way more than the wins. And the fact that you took that moment and you went to your dad and you said, I'm gonna fucking get good at this.
Yeah, man.
Like that drives, that starts the process. I always talk about motivation being bullshit, and discipline is really how you get good. And you're one of the few, we can talk about that in a minute, that see, I truly live a disciplined life. There's a lot of times I don't want to fucking go to the gym. I don't want to do shit, but I just do it. But that motivation, that little piece of I don't want to go 0-21 ever again,
Yeah.
is what starts you going. And on those days where you really are questioning if the discipline's worth it, those are the days you're like, I don't want to fucking feel that way again. I'm gonna go anyway.
No, yeah, man. It was it's kind of like an awakening moment. Like in the beginning, like the losses didn't mean anything. Like I was just like, I'm just wrestling. I'm trying it out, seeing if I like it. And then it's kind of like, man, this sucks. Mm-hmm. And my friends were all good. You know, I had 4 or 5 kids in my 6 kids in my class who were stud wrestlers, and they were multiple time state placers, state qualifiers, stuff like that. Just phenomenal athletes. And I was like, I want to be like them. And they were my age, you know what I mean? Like, I was a late bloomer to the party, kind of like that kind of thing. And, they had wrestled, a little bit through junior high and biddy and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, what do I got to do to get good? And my mom and dad were kind of like, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it?
So how did you go about, well, first of all, obviously, I'm going to, spoiler alert, he went to Cleveland State. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
There. So you obviously got good. But what, was it a conditioning thing? Was it a technique thing? Like, what did it actually take for you to go and see results in a match? Because I'm assuming if you loved it in practice, you weren't getting dominated. You weren't getting, maybe you were, but you were at least having some success that kept you coming back. So what was it that you noticed that kind of flipped for you? Was it a conditioning piece? Was it a...
Man, honestly, it was, I actually went to a Ohio State wrestling camp. My dad paid for me to go to Ohio State. My mom and dad, I always say my dad, I'm sorry. My mom and dad, they both were very adamant, on being the best at everything you do. But, yeah, so my mom and dad sent me down to Ohio State wrestling camp, and, like, I just remember seeing these dudes, and I'm like, these guys are, like, sculpted. They're, like, chiseled out of stone.
Yeah, they're not...
They're just, like... And I was like... I remember just like picking their brains and like, what do I gotta do? What do I gotta do to be good? And they were just like telling me this stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do that. And then I went to wrestling camps every summer. I remember my dad won this like $1,000 gun at a gun auction one time, and sold it like the same night to send me to a wrestling camp.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Like,
you hear that story a lot in most. I'm not saying all. There's always exceptions to the rule, but a lot of kids that make it to the higher division schools, the Division I, the Division II colleges, have stories like that where their parents were super involved, super supportive. Because it's not fucking cheap doing a lot of this.
No, man, no. I mean, wrestling is not necessarily a super expensive sport. I mean, especially at the high school level. I mean, there's no entry fees for stuff. I mean, you've got your like wrestling shoes that you pay for, but the school issues, our school issued, gear and stuff. But but then you got to think, your parents, it's almost like swimming in the sense of like your parents are going there all day long.
It's their time commitment.
So they're there from 7 a.m. to watch you swim, wrestle, whatever it is. Those winter sports where, you're leaving at like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So like,
and sometimes coming back the next fucking day and doing it all
exactly,
over again.
Dude. Yeah, there's tons of 2-day tournaments. Like, so they're sitting on their asses for 16, 17 hours. And then they're buying food for the whole time because they can't leave.
Yeah.
And then they're buying you, your T-shirts that say your name on the back and shit like that when we were in high school.
Yep. What's crazy is, and I don't know how wrestling was for swimming, there was a prelims and a finals. So I'd like to think back now and think how many parents were in the fucking stands of the kid. And I'm not talking the kids that were like competing to win, which at that age I was.
Yeah.
But like, if you're like borderline missing finals, how many parents are going, fucking miss it so we can go home?
Oh, dude, no,
what the fuck?
I bet my mom and dad would never say it. So my mom and dad really never even watched me come wrestle until I was probably my sophomore year, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so my dad hated wrestling. Hated it.
Really?
Thought it was like the worst idea ever.
Yet he sold a fucking gun to send you a wrestling.
So, and then in the beginning, and then and then he fell in love with it, man. Like, he was like, I mean, my brother was a stud wrestler. My brother was way better than I was. He
younger brother, older brother?
My younger brother. Okay. Yeah, so my little brother's like, he's a year younger than me, year and a half. and he's 2 grades behind or 3 grades behind me. So he's year and a half, 2 years younger than me, and he was a stud athlete. But anyhow, not get off topic, but yeah, man, my dad dove in. He loved it. My mom was kind of like along for the ride. Like she was that normal mom, like love you no matter what. Like
I don't care if you win or lose.
Yeah,
your dad's like fucking win.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like my mom and dad were very supportive of wrestling and all of our sports, and they dove in on all of it. So I had it pretty easy as far as like my mom and dad were they both worked really hard, blue collar families kind of thing. So wrestling was life for all of us.
So camps, and I'm assuming that translates to not just technical advantage, but more importantly, mat time.
Yeah.
Right. Like and facing different bodies than you're used to in small town Ohio. Right?
Yeah, man. So like I don't know if whoever's listening, if you guys like know wrestling or any like sport as far as close to wrestling, Jeff Jordan wrestling camps down in Urbana, Ohio, St. Paris Graham, like they've won like the last like 34 state titles. Have like, I'm exaggerating numbers, but they have like close to 30 honestly state titles in a row for Division II in Ohio.
Is that where Cody Gambrat went?
No, he went to. I'm pretty sure he went to Lexington or Claymont. He went to Claymont.
Yeah, he was from a small town, but it was in that.
Yeah, it was in that area, that Columbus area. But yeah, man. So St. Paris Graham's like national powerhouse, ranked 1 and 2 in the nation for like the last like 20, 30 years, whatever it's been.
Yeah.
Super powerhouse school. But yeah, this coach Jeff Jordan, he went to Wisconsin, was a national champ or whatever, and stud. And like he had this camp called the State Champ Camp. So like you had to apply to get into this camp.
Yeah.
So you had to be.
So it wasn't some
Yeah, like he didn't just like let in like some kids who weren't very
participation.
Yeah,
kids.
Great.
No disrespect intended.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you had to like apply and then send a check for like $1,000. And dude, you went down. I remember my dad dropped me off. I started crying. I was a homebody, but yeah. So my mom and dad dropped me off, and we're in this urban ass town with like like kind of like where I grew up, like population like 1,000 people, one gas station and a stoplight.
Yeah.
And we're in this barn. We're in a pole barn with just mats and like 3 shower heads. Damn. And so and then you got 50 kids there. 50 kids there that are just going to wrestle 3-4 times a day for a week straight.
That's crazy.
There's like, there's kids from Michigan, Indiana, all over the country, and they were like multiple state champs, studs. So you're literally wrestling with state champions the whole time. Every match you have, every drill you go, is with a state champ. And actually, I met some Fremont St. Joe kids down there. So it was cool though, man. It was a good time.
So at what point in high school, I'm assuming the flip switched and you realize, hey, I'm good at this shit. Like, when does that happen? You go 0-21. What do you come back your sophomore year? Was it like the first year you came back, or
no? My sophomore year, I probably went like I think I went like 37 and like 15 or something like that. 37 and like 10 in there somewhere. I had a pretty good year.
But that's a pretty dramatic. Like,
oh, true. Yeah, huge. Yeah.
So is that when mentally you started going, ooh? In one off season, I went from being fucking terrible, and I don't mean to be a dick, but
no,
you're fucking. I was
garbage.
Yeah, garbage to pretty fucking good. 37-10, 37-15. Like, yeah, you got some L's there, but most times you're gonna win.
It was one of those things where, I just bought into it, man. Like I wanted to I wanted to do whatever I had to do. I went to camps. I read books. The internet wasn't as big, even for me back then, where you had YouTube just on like.
Yeah, you can literally YouTube David Taylor.
Yeah, you
can get a master.
Yeah, you couldn't do that back then. So it was finding old videos in the library to where, watching stuff like that, and I would buy highlight tapes of all these colleges like Iowa and Ohio State and Penn State, and Penn State wasn't even really good back then, but just
Minnesota.
Yeah, any school I could. Minnesota was great back then, and just watching videos of kids wrestling, Mm-hmm. That's all I would do. I'd spend my time watching wrestling all the time. I knew every kid in Ohio. Every kid in Ohio that had a winning record, I knew what school they went to, where they're from. I scouted them, even if it wasn't even my weight class. I knew everyone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you start having some success. Did you do all 3 sports all through high school, or did you start focusing more on wrestling at some point?
No, man. I did football, wrestling, and baseball all 4 years.
That's awesome. I wish I had not quote unquote specialized in swimming, because I golfed and I swam, but I did not do whatever. I was really good at baseball.
Yeah.
I wish I would have stuck with baseball, but I did not. And I felt like by the time I actually got an offer to go to Cleveland State, I was burned out, because I had spent basically 4 years focusing on
mastering one craft,
and golf was there, but it's such a different, like, sometimes I forget golf's a sport, and golfers don't fucking hate, because I'm a fucking golfer.
Yeah.
But golf is so much different. It's a mind game. It's a technique game. You can't just go run and get better at golf. You can't just you got to actually golf.
Yeah, you got to put the time in on the golf course to get good.
So where swimming, you could do a lot of cross training and things like that, and help firm up some other aspects of your game that carried over into swimming. And when I started specializing, I actually took the entire summer off before my freshman year. Like,
really?
I didn't do fucking shit. I skateboarded the entire summer, and I showed up, and I was, goddamn. Let's talk about that for a second. So before I get into what I did, that summer between your senior year, you're graduating, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to Cleveland State.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to Cleveland State.
Yeah.
How did you decide? Was wrestling just what you got offers on, or was wrestling was what you were going to college?
Yeah. I mean, I knew if I was going to college just for a sport, and like, honestly, man, a lot of the reason I went to college even in the first place was like, people told me I wasn't going to go to college.
Fucking like, same story.
Like, my ACT score wasn't great. My NCAA.
What was it?
Dude, I want to say it was like a 20.
Goddamn, I'm better than you then.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't good, and I thought 24 was shit, but yeah.
I took it like 3 times too to get a 20.
I had a 24 and a 27, I think.
Oh shit, yes, you did really well.
My second one I did really well. On the first one
Yeah, man. So like back when we were in school, I'm assuming you had like NCAA clearinghouse. So like you had to like pass certain criteria to even be able to go to a Division I, Division II school.
100%.
And I was sitting there and I was like, my guidance counselor, great woman. She was just like, "Yeah, I don't think you're gonna make it. You're not gonna get in this.
You're too stupid."
yeah. Basically, it was like, "Hey, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but like, you're an idiot, and you're not gonna make it."
So you've been hitting the head too much, kid.
So I was like, "What do I gotta do?" And she made it work, man. She made it to where I passed NCAA clearinghouse. I actually went to Cleveland State as a preferred walk-on, so I didn't even get offered money.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Yeah, so basically a buddy of mine got like a scholarship. He was a 2-time runner-up, I think, and a 3rd place. He was actually my roommate my freshman year at Cleveland State. But yeah, so he went to Cleveland State, and I called the assistant coach who's from Bellevue, local town here. I was like, "Hey, I want to wrestle." And he's like, "Okay, who are you?" And I was like, "I'm so-and-so. I'm Alex's roommate. Like, I'm going to Cleveland State. I'm going to wrestle." He's like, all right. And dude, like the first day on campus, like I showed up when all the athletes showed up. Not even on the team yet.
Yeah.
I just showed up, moved in, and like was hanging out with the wrestling team from day one.
Yeah.
And come to find out, a lot of local kids around here actually, like Clyde had like 7 kids on the team. So, I went to school and I worked out a lot though in the summer. Back to the question, I got off topic. Yeah. So I worked out a lot. I ran and I wrestled a lot. But then like I'm gonna give him a shout out just because like first day, Cleveland State Wrestling, Ryan Riggs, head coach for Mount Union College here in Ohio, in Alliance, Ohio. He was my senior mentor, right? 125 pounder. The craziest dude I've ever met in my life. He had this raven tattooed on his whole back.
Okay.
And I'm like, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
So we get there and we're doing sit-ups. I remember we're doing like the decline sit-ups where you're like on the machine and you're doing declines. And I'm like,
for those of you listening, he's pretending to do a sit up right now.
yeah, I am. I'm moving back and forth. Yeah, so I'm on this machine, dude, and it's not a machine; it's just a standard, equipment. And I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm like on the verge of tears. Like, this is first day of lifting session.
Yeah.
Freshman year. And I told Ryan, I looked him in the eyes. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm gonna put it politely and respectfully because he's a head coach.
Yeah.
He goes, basically, if I hurt you, could you do any more? Or if I hurt your family, quote unquote. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like cranking out these sit-ups, dude, like trying my best. And I'm telling you what, we went in the shower afterwards and I couldn't lift my arms up.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. Mm-hmm. It was the worst I've ever felt physically in my life. But yeah, I trained a lot going up into that, so it was weird.
That's hilarious. So I finished, we finished state. We're getting ready for our awards banquet, and I basically was like, fuck it, I'm done with school. I hate school.
Yeah, I remember we had talked about this.
But I don't know that I've ever talked about this before on here, but I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple like shit talkers going, oh yeah, such and such is going to this school, Division 3. Such and such is going to this school, Division 4, whatever it may be. And they were quote unquote better than me at swimming, and it fucking pissed me off.
Yeah.
So I literally picked up the phone and called Cleveland State because we had done a swim meet there, like, I don't know, 2 months prior, and I met the head coach there, and he was like, dude, if you ever consider, he's like, I don't know that I got a scholarship spot for you, but I would love to have you come compete for a walk-on spot.
Yeah.
So all these people are, I show up to the fucking awards banquet for my high school, and I just wore a Cleveland... like, everybody else is in fucking suits and ties. I wear a Cleveland State hoodie, and I'm like, motherfuckers, I'm going to Cleveland State. And my high school coach is like, you? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm gonna fucking letter the first year.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I talked about motivation being a big part of what we do. That lasted exactly 1 week. I ran and swam for a couple times, and then I was like, I fucking don't want to do this. So I fucked off. Like, keep in mind though, my lifestyle, my entire life up until all my surgeries and all that other stuff, I was skateboarding 6, 7, 8 hours a day is still a fucking workout.
Oh, for sure.
So I showed up, and I remember, it's crazy. This must have been what my body needed. We jumped in the first day of practice, and one of the assistant coaches like, all right, we're going to do a 500 free for time. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever, dude. And I don't remember what time I went, but he's standing there on the deck when I finish, and he's like looking at me just dumbfounded, and he's like, what'd you say your best time was? And I was like, I don't remember at this point, but I'm like, it was X. And he's like, dude, you just went 5 seconds faster from a fucking push with people swimming right next to you. And I'm like, okay.
Is that good?
And I'm like, is that good? And that basically goes, if you're willing to work this hard and swim the events nobody wants to, you're going to fucking make an impact on this team. And I just got a big ass smile, and I was like, let's fucking go.
Dude, that's what a lot of people don't realize too. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but like, you don't have to be a great athlete.
Fuck no, I was not even close to the best on the team.
You got to have a heart. That's all it is. Have a heart and drive. Like, a lot of people think, like, when you have haters out there, like, oh yeah, F this guy or whatever, screw him. Like, dude, if you're a motivated person, it's just motivation.
No,
you're not even thinking about the person. Like,
no.
Like my guidance counselor, I'm not mad at her.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, she's the best thing that happened to me because I was like, I don't know what I got to do, but she helped me do it, for one. And then two, she was driving going into college. I dropped out my senior year, and then I got my degree like 8 years later. So, it's just having those internal motivators.
What's funny is Chris and I just talked about this on the last show. And guys, Chris is hopefully going to be back soon. We just couldn't work out the schedule for this one, but we talked about this on the last show. So it's funny you bring this up. I actually thanked every person that's ever hated me publicly on the show last week, because that is what I live for.
Yeah.
Because I'm that idiot that will talk shit to myself to motivate myself.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, but you talk about heart, and I remember my college coach telling me the minute he knew I was going to letter my freshman year, we had a dual meet against, I think it was Notre Dame. It was at Notre Dame, so it was definitely Notre Dame. But
Yeah.
anyway, we were swimming, and he grabbed me. It was an all men's meet. For whatever reason, the ladies didn't compete, so we go there, and he goes, Jay, I'm like, what's up? He goes, there's no women today, so you're gonna have to swim the fucking mile, jump. Pause for the dogs, but you're gonna have to swim the mile, jump right out of the pool. They're willing to give you a 3-minute reset, and then you're gonna have to jump on the board and do, I think it was the 400 IM,
Oh my gosh.
or my second event. And I was like, okay. He's like, what the fuck you mean okay? And I'm like, is that what I have to do to swim against Notre Dame in fucking college? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the thing too.
I just didn't care, but he told me I did the mile, and I fucking PR'd that. But we were doing the 400 IM, and I was fucking destroyed. And long story short, I'm neck and neck with this guy the last 25 yards of the 400 IM.
What's IM mean?
400 IM is I do 100 butterfly, 100 backstroke, 100 breaststroke, 100 freestyle.
Okay.
So you're doing all 4 strokes.
Yeah.
And we're like neck and neck for like 7th place, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a lot, but in college, if you finish lower than 8th, you didn't get points.
Yeah,
and if
correct.
you don't get points for the event, you
team.
don't. You basically didn't fucking compete.
Do it.
So I'm dead. I just swam a fucking mile. Not even fucking 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And he goes, the way you turned on the afterburner. We both like breathed towards each other, and I like looked at this fucker, and it sounds stupid to people that haven't done this, but I like literally saw him go, oh, I'm fucking tired. I don't want to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, boom. And I fucking took off. And he goes, I've never seen someone go from fucking dead to dead sprint that quick in our life. And I hit the wall and I wanted to fucking puke. But he goes, you probably just got your letter. Because from that point on, learning how to compete is such a hard skill for people.
Yeah, especially at that level.
At that level, the difference between winning and fucking 8th place is so minimal.
Yeah.
That I had to learn. Hey, this ain't fucking high school. I'm not. I haven't done shit here yet. I gotta fucking turn it on, and that's so fucking hard to do, in that setting. So you worked your ass off. You have this senior mentor that just basically says, "If I threaten your family, can you do more?" What was it like? Knowing your spot wasn't set, like you're a preferred walk-on. You take like your first wrestle matches. Like, did you actually make any of the matches your freshman year? Or
yeah, so like I redshirted my freshman year. So
okay.
If whoever's listening, like, yeah, when you redshirt, it's basically like you have a free year to like go compete wherever you want. So you can go to all these open tournaments like Eastern Michigan, which was a huge open tournament. Ashland, Mount Union, Findlay, Michigan State, all these, Division 1, 2 schools have these giant opens, and it's basically like,
go learn how to compete at the
yeah,
highest level.
exactly. That's exactly what it was, man. Like, it's like, hey, we're not going to count this year. Go learn. You know what? I had a great team, man. Like, my freshman year was, I had like a couple, national qualifiers on the team and a bunch of studs, and they would just beat you up every day. Mm-hmm. It's just going in and getting beat up. And, as a red shirt, you still go to practice. You're still doing everything with the team. You're still, you're just not traveling. You're not going to all the dual meets. You're not going to all the big stuff like all the, starters are and the, second string guys. And, I think Cleveland State, my freshman year, we had like 18 freshmen come in. It was like the biggest class ever to come in for the wrestling team. And that has to get cut down to 35 people. Mm-hmm. So it was awesome, man, honestly. It was like the best experience for coming from a small town of like legit like 800 people to going to a school, in downtown Cleveland and wrestling with some of the best kids in the state, let alone ranked in the country.
Yeah.
And going in and getting your butt beat.
What's amazing to me, and I hope it was still this way when you went there, but swimmers and wrestlers always got along really well because we were the only fucking idiots at the athletic facility at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're still there at fucking 10 o'clock at night. So we would be like swimming our AM session, and the fucking wrestlers are running the stairs.
Yeah, man.
In our big arena, and it was always like you had that respect for each other that it was, even though we're doing something completely different, you knew they were putting in work and you were putting in work yourself. So it was just fucking nuts to know that you had that camaraderie on shared suffering, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Cleveland State was awesome. Like, I have zero regrets, even with the amount of student loans I had. We've talked about that before. Like, even with the amount of money, like, it was the coolest experience as far as like, it's such a small camp. Well, it was such a small campus. Like,
yeah, it
was mainly like athletes.
Yeah.
It's like 90% of the people who lived on campus were athletes.
100%.
And the rest were like commuters.
Yep.
Which is great. Like, so I mean, you were around all the athletes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the basketball team, because they were like the football team for most schools, like just the superior group. Yeah. But yeah, man, we hung out with like baseball players, volleyball team, softball, swimmers. I mean, I can't even think of his name, dude. But my room, the guys who live right next to me, were like this Russian kid who swam, and this other kid from like Columbus, and he had this great white shark tattoo on his forearm.
Mm-hmm. And
they were just like, all the swimmers at Cleveland State were longboarders. They all had these like longboards, and they skated everywhere, and that was their thing. And you know what? The wrestling facility and the swimming facility were the same gym.
Yep.
I mean, you went to the same thing. So like, swimmers, cross country, and wrestlers all were in what Wrestling?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Wrestling gym?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget now, but I mean, I think the whole sports community there was close.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I mean, I don't know if they had it when you were in school, but they had this thing called the Viking Cup.
Yep.
And every time you went to another sporting event, you got points for your school, your team. And we went to everything. If we weren't practicing or traveling for a meet, we were at every volleyball game, every soccer game. I forgot about soccer. Soccer team was cool too.
Yeah.
Cool too. I mean, we went to everything we could, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So at what point? So you redshirt your first year. Your next year, were you actually on? Like, were you a starter, second string? Like,
yeah. So, my second year, my sophomore year, actually my redshirt freshman technically is what it'd be called, but sophomore, whatever. So yeah, the starter ahead of me was actually a kid from like 20 minutes down the road from me.
Oh really?
Yeah, Lawrence Cavelli is from Willard, Ohio, stud athlete, awesome kid. Actually, I think a kid from Clyde was like, all three were like battling for like that number one spot.
Mm-hmm.
And we all traveled together, man. Like, we all went and that was like the turning year. Like the summer between my freshman year and my sophomore year, we got a new coach, and he was basically like, you got to work. You got to learn to work. Mm-hmm. And dude, I woke up every morning, like, we had 2 days every day, but I was there before 2 days, like running, like getting fit. Like, I was cutting like 20, 30 pounds, getting to like 141. And like, I was shredded like before season even started. I was already at weight, like grinding.
Yeah.
And even then, dude, like, that's the thing, is like, at that level, you can grind as much as you want and do everything that you think is right, and you're still not the best on the team.
Nope.
You're still going to go in and get beat up every day.
Yep.
And that's what's great about it, is like, I mean, it's almost humbling. It's almost like jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah.
You can have all this experience and you can still get beat up and wrecked by dudes.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's the same thing with swimming. Even though you're not getting that like physical aspect, you're still going to swimming against dudes who might have went out and drank all night, or might have stayed up all night studying for an exam, and you're fresh and worked out, and you're like getting beat by 2 seconds, which is a lot.
I remember this would have been back in high school, so for like 2 years straight, me and this dude, I wish I remembered his name, but we were right next to each other every big event.
Yeah.
But we never crossed paths at like dual meets. We would only see each other at the big invitations and stuff. And I was always the one winning on my side, and he was winning on his. And I remember my junior year, he beat me at the two biggest meets.
Yeah.
And it fucking pissed me off. And then my senior year, he beat me at the first one. And then for whatever reason at sectionals, it was either sectionals or districts, I don't remember what fucking it was, but it was like the last meet before state. I just looked at my coach, and I'm like, this motherfucker has my number, so I'm going to do something stupid. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to do something stupid? Well, I was a distance swimmer, so the thought of sprinting the first 50 yards is a stupid fucking idea, because you're going to be in pain.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm fucking sprinting the first 100 and making this. We're going to see how fucking tough this kid is.
Yeah.
So my fastest 100 time before that was like 53. I swam the first 100 in like 49.
Oh my gosh.
And I was in pain. I mean, I literally got out of the pool fucking crying. I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
But he wilted at the 150 mark because he was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. And the funny thing is, I ended up slowing way the fuck down. I swam like a 520. I mean, I had one of the worst swims I've ever had, but I mentally broke every single person in the pool.
Yeah, right away they were like, "Hey, we're not going to keep up with this
nope,
dude.
Yep.
We're just gonna coast.
We're gonna coast." And, and it's crazy when you get put in those hyper competitive environments. Like, you just learn, fuck it, I'm gonna try this.
It's either you're going or you're not.
Yeah,
you have like one choice.
It's like I don't really give a fuck. I'm either gonna get beat for the 4th time,
yep,
and I'm already pissed, or I'm gonna find a way to win. And I will tell you, as sweet as it was to have won, I've never been in that much pain in my entire fucking life.
Yeah.
Like, still to this day, I'm like, God damn, that was a stupid fucking idea.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, but it's one of those things that paid off in the long run, right?
Yeah, it did. And that's one of the, it flash forward, my coach telling me my freshman year when I was going to let her was turning it on when I had to in the face of a competition. And it's like, you learn stuff about yourself in the darkest and hardest moments of your life.
Oh, for sure.
So you're forged in the battlefield for you guys. Like, you're wrestling with 3 really good wrestlers, you being one of them, so 2 other guys every single day for this spot, just to go compete with someone that could fucking kick your ass.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
But it puts you in this mindset where every time you stepped on the mat, you were ready for fucking battle.
Yeah, I think that's one thing with, especially with the individual sports, and like I said, I know we've talked about like training regimens as far as like, like, dude, I was 140 pounds thinking I was the baddest dude on the planet. Like, I was walking around like I could literally fight and hurt anyone here.
Yeah.
That's not the case. I know that now, like, as you're older, but like, you train so hard in those moments where, I mean, we ran more than the cross country team, and they'll even tell you that to this day. Like, we were running 3, 4, 5, 6 miles a day, every day, and then doing stairs, and then going to wrestling, and then doing individuals, and like. Same as swimming is like, you guys were lifting and running. And
our warm-up for swim practice was a fucking 5K at a minimum. Some days it was a 10K. It was like, every day we'd show up and we would go run. Then we would do a core workout and then we would swim. And then unofficially we volunteered and we went to the weight room.
Yeah.
And and mind you, because we were volunteering and we couldn't have a coach there, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing back then.
No.
That's part of what got me into coaching, because I was going, fuck, I bench pressed and I did pull-ups because those were the 2 things I was okay at.
Yeah.
And I sucked at bench pressing, mind you. But I'm like, squat, what the fuck for?
I don't need
all
that.
These other things, like, whatever.
Well, I mean, I think that's a maturity thing too, as far as like being an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid. Like looking back now, dude, I'm like, man, if I just would have like tried a little harder, maybe I could have been a lot more better. Or a lot better as far as like...
Yeah, I would like to take my knowledge now and put it into my uninjured body.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, realizing how important fucking nutrition is. And the one thing that I would tell you all the wrestlers hated swimmers for is I ate whatever the fuck I wanted.
I hated swimmers.
It's like, oh, I just swam, and I was a distance swimmer, so there were times I'm swimming 10, 15,000 yards a day, which for reference, roughly 1,1600 a mile, right? So I'm swimming.
So how many laps is that then? Like, let's say your Olympic size pool, like a regulation size pool for like Cleveland State is. So a down and back is what?
That's considered a 50.
A 50 meter.
50 yards.
50 yards.
Yeah.
And you were doing how many?
10,000 to 15,000 a day.
And I remember we talked about this earlier on. You were eating what, like 10,000 calories a day?
I don't know that for a fact. We tracked it at one point, and it's funny because when I showed up, I had, I'm sure it's been beaten now, but I had the lowest ever body percent when they did the immersion test.
Yeah.
I had the lowest body percent fat that they'd ever seen in swimming.
Yeah.
I was 3.8% body fat.
So you were shredded out of your mind.
Yeah, but I had no fucking muscle. I was 138 pounds at 3.8% body
and
fat.
6'2".
And 6'2". So I was a fucking string bean. And eating, so just to give you a reference on what we would eat, I would go, and I'm just going to tell you breakfast because I'm not going to get into what I ate the rest of the day, but we'd go do our 2-hour morning swim.
Yeah.
We'd come back. I'd have 2 Belgian waffles topped with fucking like 4 or 5 scoops of ice cream, 2 or 3 bowls of cereal, and I would have them make me like a 3-egg omelet with whatever fucking veggies I could. And I would eat all that, and like 2 hours later, I'm hungry again.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, I remember we spoke about that, but that's the thing, man, with wrestling is like,
you don't get to do that.
I'm not gonna say that wrestling is harder as far as workouts because I could never compare that because swimming's tough.
Yeah.
But like we're doing 2-hour workouts where we're running stadium stairs or going for like a bridge to bridge, which is like a 6-mile run.
Yeah.
And then not eating. For 2 days.
Yeah. No, that's.
I mean, I was very bad at cutting weight, especially when I was younger, especially my freshman, sophomore year in college. Like, I mean, I remember a kid, actually a Clyde boy. I'm not gonna say his name because I respect him a lot, but. He was in the corner of the room, the wrestling room, crying, trying to lose weight to make weight so we could wrestle off.
Holy shit!
And he's one of my good buddies when we, freshman, sophomore year of college. But like legit bawling his eyes out in the corner, just to make weight, just to make weight to wrestle off for a spot on the Cleveland State team, not even to like go wrestle at a meet.
Yeah.
But and I'll never forget it, man. Like, and I've never felt bad for someone in my life, especially with wrestling. Like this year, I'm like. Like that's love, man. That's true, like grit.
Well, and then you got to wrestle him, and you got to flip on and fucking beat his ass.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like, and actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure he beat me that day too. And yeah,
pussy.
Yeah, freak athlete. He was a stud, man. He was a stud. But yeah, crying in the corner of the weight room. I'll never forget that ever.
That's toughness right there.
Yeah.
And I get
crying while working out, doing
Yeah.
Sweatpants.
Some of you will say that's crazy, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you do what you got to do to do something you love. So, at what point did you really start hitting your... These dogs are driving me nuts today. Sorry, guys. At what point did you really start hitting your groove and becoming... What was the highest? You got ranked like 3rd in the nation at one point or something?
Yeah, so like Greco, I finished 5th in Greco Nationals.
And what's the difference between Greco and...
So like Greco's like an Olympic style where you cannot touch legs. So like college and high school like is like folk style, and then like Olympics is freestyle and Greco-Roman. So yeah, so they have this thing called University Nationals every year out in Akron. I don't know if they still have it, but yeah, so I got 3rd or 4th out there, something like that. And yeah, so I think my sophomore into my junior year is like when I was like, hey, I can do this if I keep working hard. I can like actually be decent. I knew I was never gonna be like a national champion. Like that was just like a realistic thing I just knew, and that's okay. It's okay to know you're not gonna be that, but it's still still got to work to be the best you can be. And the best I could be was that. So that's what I did, and it was like really diving in. Like we had talked about, like I was working out before 2 days, and I was working out after our evening practice, and like making the weight and drilling and stuff like that. It's kind of one of those things like the freshman, sophomore year of high school, like that thought process like carried into like even college, where I was like, if you want to be great, this is what you have to do.
It's kind of like Bruce Lee's famous quote, I fear not the man that throws 10,000 kicks. I fear the man that's thrown one kick 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, at that level especially, it's the basics that win.
Yeah,
you have to have that so locked into your brain that when they make that one little mistake, I mean, if you think about it, David Taylor just won a gold medal for the U.S. on a fucking double leg. You know what I mean?
Dude,
13 seconds left, change level, shoot in deep on the leg, and fucking go. Gable Stevenson, fucking insane finish, but wins on a
couple single legs.
It's like you win. You're not hitting fireman's carries and all this other
bullshit. No, you're not. I mean, dude, the highest level like that, like the Burrows and the Gable Stevensons and the Dan Gables and Cale Sanderson, like you're not seeing those guys hitting those super high point moves. They're hitting the basic moves that are winning the matches, and that's what those guys. You might see that a little bit more in college, where David Taylor's hitting, switches and these fancy turns and stuff like that, or like Bo Nickel, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like you look at like Zane Rutherford,
Mm-hmm.
he's hitting basic doubles, singles,
But
turns.
that's the thing that you don't realize is I say there's such a small gap between first and eighth place, but in reality, there's a small gap between third and eighth place.
Oh.
First and second are light years ahead of everybody.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. I mean,
I'm sorry, Bo Nickel, the run he went on when he was winning the NCAA, he was fucking pinning everybody.
yeah. You're hitting tech falls and pins in the finals. I mean,
The run Gable Stevenson went on this year, I think he fucking teched both his guys or pinned
yeah.
them.
I mean, you've got your superior athletes out there who are just like light years away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Burroughs for like the longest time. I think he was like 74-0 in international competition. Like, you've got those special just phenoms that are just out there. Like, look at Michael Phelps in swimming aspect. As far as like, what's he got? Like 18 gold medals.
Something ridiculous.
Something stupid.
He's the
I mean,
number one, but it all comes down to grit and determinations. I mean, I think the coolest thing about Jordan Burroughs and why he's really what drew me to Olympic style.
Yeah, you've always liked JB.
Is but what I liked about him is he wasn't that guy you don't score on. Like, that was what was awesome about watching his matches is there was always a point in the match where you went, JB's finally going to get beat. And then JB was JB and just fucking steamrolled him at the back half of the match. And you're like, fuck, that dude is good.
Especially with wrestling, man, there's just dudes who know how to win.
Yeah.
Like, you look at like a local kid, Logan Stieber, 4-time national champ from Ohio State. I mean, he had Jordan Oliver in the finals, was almost losing to him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's almost lost, you say almost lost, but he's almost, I guess, had close matches for, 5 matches in his 4 years of wrestling in college.
Yeah.
He's a stud athlete. Mm-hmm. It's cool. And I actually met JB. So I did I did an East Bay video with JB.
Did that come from your Cleveland State connection or how?
No.
Let's talk before. How did you get to a point to meet JB?
So I worked, dude, I was working like little odd end construction jobs around here. And then like a buddy of mine got a job in Columbus as a sales rep for a company called Cage Fighter.
Mm-hmm. Which was huge.
Yeah.
There for a while. They were fucking.
So Cage Fighter owned like MMA Authentic, like which was like in Walmart, and like all these UFC dudes repped it, and like it was huge.
Yeah.
And then the dude who owned that, started branding it off and made Cage Fighter, Cage Fighter Athletic, CF Athletic, and so JP was down there. Josh Palavoto, one of my best friends from Cleveland State. Mm-hmm. He's from Columbus. He's from Marysville, and he called me up one day. He's like, "Hey man, I got this job for this wrestling company." I'm like, "I'm moving down." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I'm moving in with your mom and dad. I'm coming down." Mm-hmm. And like I've known his mom and dad forever. Amazing.
This was in Columbus?
Yeah, so he lived in Marysville, which is like probably 35, 40 minutes north of Columbus, like in downtown.
Yeah.
Right? So I moved down there. I got a job at some giant gym down there. Where are the giant gyms down there? Anyhow. So I get a job at a gym and I'm like I want to meet the owner. I want to I'm in, let's go. Wrestling. Love it. Still love it.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. So he's like, yeah, I got you an interview. So I go in, I'm in the suit and tie. We're sitting down, and the dude's like, yeah, start tomorrow. So me, JP, my buddy, and 2 other young dudes and like this middle-aged guy who had been doing it for years, built this. I don't say we built it, but like, dude, we started this brand from like $1 million in sales to like 13 million first year. Mm-hmm. Like probably more than that. We were going out to Dallas to the Cotton Bowl, which is a giant youth tournament, and then going out to like Tulsa Nationals, which is another giant tournament. So anyhow, Jordan Burroughs was sponsored by Cage Fighter Athletic. Jordan Burroughs, DC Cormier, Matt Brown, all these UFC fighters, and these stud wrestlers. And yeah, so a kid from Ohio State was supposed to do this video with Jordan Burroughs for East Bay on a how-to wrestle video. Mm-hmm. So basically a video that said, hey, we're going to show these kids how to wrestle. Mm-hmm. Like just basics. Well, the dude didn't, the guy had something come up and, the owner was like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. So like I got decked out on my CF gear and like we went and did this tutorial video for East Bay. Later on that night.
It's still on YouTube if you want to check it out, guys.
Yeah. So if you Google on like YouTube, I think it's like East Bay How to Wrestle Jordan Burroughs, And yeah, so I'm in that video with JB, and honestly, man, like, so we met him right when he got back from London. Me and Josh.
He just won the
just winning the
2012.
gold. Yeah, so we went back and we're meeting him. Super humble dude. Like you wouldn't think like I don't know how many of you met like these celebrity athletes in my world at least. Like you meet these guys and you're like thinking like, oh, they're gonna be like cocky and arrogant, like you know because they're badass dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking this, and then you meet them and you're like DC Cormier. Like I've hung out with him.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's
I got a little bobblehead signed by him over there.
Yeah, dude. Amazing dude. You know, Matt Brown, met him. Amazing dude. Like, all these guys that you meet that are just these world-class athletes that are just above and beyond are amazing people. So, yeah, so we met to our boss's house, and Jordan Burroughs was there, and we got to see his medal and hang out with him for a while. And, you know, he's a sponsored athlete, so he was always coming with us to, like, not coming with us, meeting us at these venues to, you know, sign autographs for all these kids and, you know, all this stuff. And it was awesome. It was a cool ride.
That's amazing. I think
I just got on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
just went
fine.
off.
I think why people are humble in that, and I'm going to kind of transition into what you've been doing post wrestling, and how we've recently reconnected to go to get into martial arts. But I was going to say, I think the reason a lot of these guys are humble is, to your point earlier, in wrestling, in your training room, in jiu-jitsu, when we're rolling, there's always, you have good days, you have bad days. There's days that people that I normally can handle pretty well fuck my world up, and I'm like, yeah, that's the ultimate truth right here, is unfortunately on the mat you have to give your best effort no matter what, and even sometimes your best effort on that day, you're just messed up, you're sore, whatever. You're just you're not that fucking good that day. And you just get beat up, and it's very hard to be arrogant and cocky when there's always a chance you get the hell beat out of you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, me and you meet. You're with my gym for quite some time. You kind of got off the path for a little bit. I'm not gonna make fun of you right now. Don't worry. Although I really want to.
You got a little fluffy.
I really want to.
You got a little chubby.
You got a little chubby. You went away. You dealt with some stuff. You started your own roofing company, which I'll let you pimp at the end of this. But I don't even remember what started you reaching out to me to do jiu-jitsu again.
I mean, I think you and I have always had that like connection as far as like just working out in general. Like we've always been close. You know, there was a time that we you know kind of went our own ways a little bit, families and. You know,
we never weren't in contact.
Yeah, we were always in contact. We just weren't like hanging out like we do now.
Together. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think like so. You know, I went through that spurt of like getting bigger. I gained a bunch of weight. I had like no motivation to like really do anything besides work.
He gained the COVID 50.
Oh, dude, I gained like the COVID 80.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice. Motherfucker got big.
Yeah, I got real big. I'm still big now, but you know we'll get there. We're working on that still. So. You know, thanks to First Form and Baker Wellness.
Barker Wellness
for getting there. But, yeah, man, so, like, I remember you always talking about jiu-jitsu, and I was like, I wrestled. Like, it'd be fun to do it.
Well, what's funny is, and I don't know if you remember this, at the old gym, very early on, I don't know, you were always notorious for fucking around trying to do, like, single legs on people and shit.
I think all wrestlers are, like, touchy-feely, grabby people.
But you, like, picked me up. And when you picked me up, I threw an arm bar on you.
Yeah.
And I think you were holding me and I had an arm bar and I was like, one of two things can happen, Tyler. You can slam me and I'm going to break your arm and we're both going to be fucking miserable. Or you can gently put me down and we won't go there. And I remember that day you just kind of put me down.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. But from that point forward, we kind of, because I had done jiu-jitsu way back when.
Yeah.
And then a buddy of mine asked me to go watch. He knew I was a big Nate Diaz fan. And when he fought for the BMF title, A, I was a Nate Diaz fan. And B, I use BMF all the fucking time. Like, I literally call myself a BMF. And I'm not saying I'm a bad motherfucker in the sense of I can beat somebody up. I think anybody that faces their demons and continues to walk that path towards being better is a bad motherfucker, in my opinion. But anyway, they were fighting for the BMF title, and I remember halfway through the card, I looked at Jason Dunphy, who I was with, and I'm like, I got to go back to jiu-jitsu. And he's like, yeah, we should talk about it. That was Saturday. On Monday, I was at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And he's still talking about it. Like, no disrespect to him. He had some shoulder stuff and all, but
Yeah.
that's just how I work. Like, once the thought has entered my head, I'm doing it.
Oh yeah, dude, you've always been like that. I mean,
So,
have you even spoke on the triathlon yet?
I did a whole 19 episode podcast about the triathlon.
I just mean like the next one.
Oh, no, I haven't. I threw it out on the last one, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I can talk.
Because I was like, God damn, I put it out there. Now
So yeah, so me and Jay ride bikes. So like we both have cycling bikes. Jay has like a $10,000 bike and I have like a $500 bike.
First of all, fuck off. My bike is not.
Jay pedals like 4 times to my 300, and he's cruising. He's like 22 mile an hour, and I'm like barely hitting 2.
Yeah,
Anyhow, so yeah, we were riding there like almost every day there for a while.
For a solid, basically May through beginning of July.
Yeah, we were riding a lot, and then you were like, we were just riding there one day, and we're on like mile 10, and we turn around, and Jay's like, I'm gonna do an Ironman, because at the time
James Lawrence
just hit his like 101st Ironman. We were kind of keeping track of it the whole time, and he's like, I think I'm gonna do one. And I'm like, what do you mean? And next thing you know, 2 days later, Jay's like, hey man, I got this plan, I got this protocol, this is how I'm gonna do it, and this is when we're gonna do it. And I'm like, we just talked about this. Like, he's like, and Jay's like, yeah, I know, I got it. It's I got it figured out already.
It's done.
So that's, if you guys don't know Jay very well, I mean, I know whoever listens to him probably knows him a little bit, but that's how he is. If he's got an idea, he's gonna do it, and that's just there's no talking about it. It's just I'm gonna do it. So yeah, he fell back into jiu-jitsu. Probably a year and a half ago now?
We're coming up on 2 years. It would be November will be 2 years back to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and I started going, not December, probably January, February this year?
Something like that, yeah.
I think February.
Yeah. It was one of those, we had talked about it, and then I got promoted to blue belt about a year after being back, and I kept getting on your ass. I'm like, dude, when are you gonna get back? And then we actually physically saw each other for the first time since COVID.
Yeah.
And I think I gave you a ton of shit over how fat you got.
Yeah. That's usually how it always went.
And in my defense, you did tell me to call you a fat motherfucker.
I did.
A lot.
I wanted the motivation, the hate to...
Yeah, but you don't realize how much I will call you a fat motherfucker. But anyway, like, I saw you and I'm like, dude, just go with me. And I remember, it's interesting now talking about this, because... just giving you a little bit of jiu-jitsu, you can fuck my ass up now. But I remember the first day, like, you show up, and I'm walking out with my stuff, and you're like, you roll down your window, you're like, I still don't know if I'm going. I'm like, the fuck you mean you don't know if you're going? You're in my fucking parking lot.
I was
you're in my driveway. I'm like, and you're like, I don't know if I can go. And I don't remember verbatim what I said to you, but I think I said, get your motherfucking shit and get in my truck.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty sure that's exactly how it happened. I was like... I had my bag packed. I had this shit green gi that I bought off of like eBay or on Amazon or something. And you were like, dude, no one wears green. Like, green's not a color you wear. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I remember showing up, dude, and it was probably the best decision I made in a long time as far as like going. I think there was a spot there where I had quit chewing and quit, other things in my life, and I was just like, I want to do something. And
usually when you quit and you have an addiction, and I've talked about this before, you replace an addiction with another addiction.
Yeah.
And if you quit chewing or whatever, you usually replace it with food. You know what I mean? And jiu-jitsu for you, as I've witnessed, was like, okay, now I can replace food with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you obviously eat. Human beings have to eat. But it was that permission that, hey, I got to get back on the path.
I was getting unhealthy, man. Like, I was getting, like, borderline, like...
Yeah.
There was no borderline.
You were pretty big.
I was, like, I was on the verge of, like, probably 40% body fat.
Yeah.
I was big, dude.
Yeah, you were a big dude.
And you don't realize, like, how big you get until you, like, see pictures and you're like... oh my gosh, like, who let me do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did this, but at the end of the day, it's you.
Yeah.
It's you taking, that's what kind of your podcast is about, really, is,
yeah.
It's taking responsibility for your own actions and doing the thing.
And that's why I thought you would be the perfect fucking guest, because you went from 0-21 in JV to fucking top of the world wrestler.
Yeah.
got pretty fucking good at CrossFit, where we didn't even fucking touch on, fall off the fucking wagon.
Yeah, man, it doesn't take long.
That's the funny thing about Road to the Optimal Self is, motherfucker, you still got to pay the dues every fucking day because it can be gone in a heartbeat. And that was what was beautiful. Since you started jiu-jitsu again, you're down 35 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun journey, but I see that fire in you now that I hadn't seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to do another podcast sometime where we talk about CrossFit and like that journey. Yeah. It's because, I mean, that was life. That was all we did.
Yeah, we that's how we got actually close. But I wanted to wet the whistle of people with your actual story. But you know what's fucking awesome is I've known you for 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
I've spent countless hours with you, as you would say with me. Half of this shit we've talked about, we've never talked about before.
No.
Like, it's crazy.
I mean, I think when you're...
We've dabbled little pieces, but like...
Yeah, I think when you're digging into somebody's life and then you're like, you know, living the life, as far as like, you know, we just spent time working out.
Yeah.
Grilling food, shooting guns, like that kind of stuff. Like, you know, you don't really have time to like, hey, what was your childhood like? What was your high school life like? And that's
what was it like crying or watching a guy cry to lose weight?
Yeah, as you're sitting there like, weighing in, like, well, he's still over there crying, like, but dude, he's a bad dude.
Yeah,
man,
it's pretty crazy. And actually, I just looked at the time. We've already gone pretty long time, so
we'll have to do a part 2.
We're gonna have to do a part 2, but for right now, to end part 1, we will definitely have you back. I always like to finish podcasts with what is one thing you are doing currently, and usually, just FYI, it's a book or something that you do daily to keep you on the path. I'm not going to give a book this week. I will talk about something else I'm doing. Last week I gave the book Tim Grover, Winning. If you haven't read it, fucking amazing book. This week I want to talk about, I literally follow, the First Form app has a checklist every day. Workout, read 10 pages, sleep 7 hours. I fucking very rarely hit 7 hours of sleep, but whatever. Track your macros and drink fucking water. Like, it's my 5 things that I have to get done in a day or I feel like a fucking piece of shit. So I would tell you, I don't give a fuck what those 5 things are, but have some kind of power list, have some kind of fucking agenda that says, I want to knock these things off every day. Because if you don't write it down, you know how easy it is to get sidetracked.
Oh, yeah.
But if I start the day going, these 5 things are essential to my day, you will get them done.
I agree.
So what do you got? You got a book? You got what one thing would you say to the people that has been the most impactful lately to get you back on the road to your optimal self?
So yeah, I actually just started doing it this past Monday. I started doing like meditation in the morning, as far as like a breathing, kind of like channeling your inner like kind of peace thing, I guess.
Is it like, are you following along an app or is it?
Yeah, so I'm not an app. No, I'm actually just like Googling or YouTubing like meditation, and I just like, they have these like, I don't pick just one. I do whatever one pops up and I just pick it, and it's like a breathing scenario for like 15 minutes with like calming music, and you kind of just breathe. And I know you spoke a little bit about the breathing stuff you do. But yeah, I just sit there and breathe, and I stretch while I do it. I can't just sit there.
Yeah.
So I usually try to stretch while I do it, and it kind of just like, for me, like I'm one of those people, like I wake up and I'm like out the door. I'm dressed out the door within like 5 minutes. I'm not like a sit down, have your coffee, read the newspaper kind of person. I'm just like, alarms off, brush teeth, get dressed, gone, out the door. So for me, it's kind of one of those things where I can like calm my mind down a little bit and like breathe and just relax before I head out the door to work.
It centers you.
Yeah.
It gets you into a spot where you're focused on what you need to have done.
Yeah. You're already calmed down. And like I said, I kind of, after I do that, I kind of go through like my daily task list of like things I have to do, things I want to get done, you know, as far as work or, you know, just like things I have to do around my house or whatever it is. And that's kind of how I start my day every day.
Awesome. Where can people find you? You can throw in your roofing business as well. Where can people find you if they want to follow any information on you? Instagram, etc.
Yeah, man. So my Instagram is TJY_EPS. And I own a roofing/construction company in Northwest Ohio called Smith & Young Roofing. Look us up for all your construction needs.
There you go. Thank you all. This has been The Road to Your Optimal Self with Tyler and Jay. Boom.